When the Earth got angry, what if the story of humanity almost ended before it even began? Millions of years of evolution, thousands of years of adaptation, all brought to the brink of extinction in a matter of hours. A delicate balance shattered. 75,000 years ago, a supervolcano named Toba erupted, not with fire, but with primordial fury. A seismic event beyond comprehension. A roar that ripped the sky open. An explosion beyond the reach of imagination. In mere hours, the world was irrevocably reshaped. Its force, catastrophic, planet-altering. Its power, utterly unmatched. It turned the clear blue skies into a dense cloak of ash. Day into an endless twilight. Lush forests into charred graveyards. Life suffocated under the weight of silence and soot. An atmospheric veil descended, blotting out the sun. And humanity? Nearly wiped from the Earth's surface. A scattered handful, fragile and afraid, caught in the storm of the planet's wrath. Our species teetered on the edge of oblivion, not because we were weak or unworthy, but because the Earth was angry, and its fury was something no creature could prepare for. No innate defense could withstand. We weren't ready. Not then, but this crucible would forge our future. The age of ash. When Toba erupted, it didn't just unleash ash. It expelled a cataclysm. It vomited history into the atmosphere, erased what came before, redrew the very contours of what would follow. Trillions of tons of pulverized rock exploded skyward enough to bury continents. A suffocating blanket of fine ash swept across South Asia, the Indian Ocean, the Arabian Peninsula. Beyond a natural disaster, it was a global environmental shift. It wasn't just a storm, it was a planetary burial. A world drowned in an endless choking gray. Temperatures crashed, plunging by up to 15 degrees Celsius globally. The rain stopped. The monsoons vanished. Rivers ran dry. Ecosystems unraveled, species facing mass extinction. Volcanic winter wasn't a metaphor for harsh times. It was a literal decade without adequate sun, without warmth. A prolonged ice age born of fire. In that frozen dusk, life faltered. Hope withered. Resilience was tested. And humanity? Never had we been so fragile, so close to disappearing entirely from the fossil record, ghost of what we once were. The bottleneck species fell like dominoes across the planet. Entire lineages vanished, leaving no trace. Biodiversity suffered an unprecedented blow. But one species clung precariously to survival: Homo sapiens. Us. Geneticists call it a population bottleneck. When population size and genetic diversity collapse to critically low levels, a severe reduction in our gene pool, from millions to mere thousands, from thriving across continents to a handful of scattered, desperate bands. This genetic constriction marks our past. Every human alive today? A direct descendant of those few who made it through. Our common lineage traces back to this narrow gate. Their blood flows through our veins. Their urgent decisions echo in our deepest instincts, a testament to their improbable persistence. It wasn't sheer strength that saved them. It was adaptive capacity, unyielding resilience, and perhaps pure luck, a confluence of factors in the face of despair. And it irrevocably changed us forever, a defining moment in our evolutionary journey. Tribes of fire and salt. How did they endure the relentless darkness? What strategies allowed a remnant to persist? Some clustered near geothermal springs, where warmth still leaked from Earth's wounded crust, a last bastion against the cold, a natural haven in a hostile world. Others, driven by hunger, fled to the sea, learning to gather mussels, edible seaweed, and fish from the frigid waters. Developing new subsistence patterns, they learned patience. They watched the rhythmic tides, mastering coastal foraging. They learned to bend before they broke, adapting to extreme conditions. Along the coasts of South Africa, caves still whisper their ancient stories. Half-burnt hearths, layered with charcoal. Tools stained with red ochre, hinting at early symbolic thought. Shells piled high like forgotten altars, evidence of new diets. These are signs not just of endurance, but of nascent innovation. Of imagination taking root in the direst circumstances. Even as the world burned and froze, they found ways to create and to thrive. A testament to our species' ingenuity. When scarcity shaped the mind, scarcity didn't just test physical endurance or brute strength. It profoundly rewired minds. It demanded cognitive flexibility and problem solving. To survive, we had to become more than solitary hunters. We became intrinsically interconnected collaborators. Social bonds strengthened under duress. Differences were set aside for the common good. Common ground became sacred, a foundation for collective action. Knowledge flowed freely between individuals and groups. Tools grew sharper, more specialized, reflecting technological advancement. Communication grew richer, more nuanced. Some anthropologists believe language itself accelerated in the ashes of this collapse. A critical evolutionary leap, because when survival hinges on someone else's understanding, words matter. Every inflection, every shared concept. Each syllable was a thread weaving complex ideas. Each sentence a bridge spanning chasms of fear and uncertainty. What we couldn't fight with fire, we faced with profound social connection and shared intellect. Our minds became our greatest survival tool. The birth of story around the flickering fire, fear found its voice. Collective voice seeking solace and meaning. The encroaching darkness. The relentless storms. The gnawing hunger. These terrifying realities demanded explanation, demanded meaning. So we told stories of primordial gods who brought wrath upon the earth, of an earth that had burned, then froze in cosmic retribution, of resilient ancestors who endured the unendurable. These weren't just simple myths or fables. They were crucial maps for navigating an unpredictable world, psychological blueprints for coping with trauma, emotional guardrails, guiding behavior and collective understanding. They whispered ancient wisdom, "You're not alone in this suffering. This has happened before and life found a way. You are not the first to fear the dark and survive it." In the ashes of ruin, amidst collective memory, story became our most enduring shelter, a cultural bedrock for future generations. Echoes in our genesis even now. Echoes of that cataclysmic period remain etched deep in our biological blueprint. In our DNA, strange, tightly clustered mitochondrial signatures. A genetic footprint of the severe population bottleneck. In our primal instincts, an innate fear of prolonged darkness, of choking ash, of the chilling silence after a thunderclap. These are not learned fears, they are inherited predispositions. In our deep-seated behavior, the almost compulsive urge to gather when afraid, the necessity of storytelling in times of uncertainty, the subconscious planning of escape routes even in places deemed safe. These are adaptive responses forged in crisis. We do not consciously remember the Toba eruption. The specific event is lost to personal memory, but our cells do. Our very biology retains the trauma and the triumph. We carry the ghost of volcanic winter in every physiological reaction, the ancient hardwired reflexes of ultimate survivors. This is not mere nostalgia for the past. It is a profound genetic inheritance, the deep, indelible memory of flame and ice encoded in our being. When the world shrank, after Toba, the patterns of human migration fundamentally changed. Global populations faced unprecedented pressures. Demographic collapse came swiftly and brutally. Regrouping where it occurred was agonizingly slow and uncertain. Some surviving groups moved south, clinging precariously to resource-rich coasts. Others retreated inland, desperately seeking new sources of food, elusive warmth, and a glimmer of future. The map of humanity bent and twisted under duress, not from strategic choice or ambitious exploration, but from sheer brutal necessity. Survival dictated every movement. These were not heroic journeys of discovery. They were desperate acts of sheer will, forced exodus in a dying world. Each footstep was carved in the gnawing hunger of constant scarcity. Each tenuous path soaked in the persistent fear of the unknown. It was not about charting new territories. It was about staying alive, one painful step at a time. Testament to our inherent migratory drive refined by catastrophe. The first founder. From these scattered, desperate survivors came the precious seeds of all future humanity. The ancestral lineages that would one day colonize every continent. Tiny, isolated groups who would someday populate continents, reshaping the global genetic landscape. One core band remained in pockets of Africa, holding on. One followed Asia's southern shores, adapting to maritime life. One climbed into unforgiving highlands, finding unique niches. They weren't celebrated visionaries guiding a grand migration. They weren't divinely chosen. They were simply alive, and fiercely determined to remain so. Each step they took, a new genetic pathway formed. Each child they raised, a direct link to the modern world. Profound legacy none of them could possibly foresee. They weren't consciously building a species, but through their sheer persistence, they were irrevocably becoming one, the very foundation of our diverse global population. When memory became law, in these tiny, fragile groups, beyond mere instinct, formal rules began to rise. The earliest forms of social contract emerged. Commands like, don't hoard food during famine, don't abandon the weak or injured, pass on the story of what happened. Memory of the cataclysm became an unwritten law, guiding principles for collective survival. The elder wasn't just a respected figure. They were the living archive, a walking, breathing library of past warnings and hard-won wisdom. And when a child, in innocent curiosity, asked, "Why is the sky sometimes gray and threatening?" the answer wasn't based on meteorological science. It was profoundly ancestral. It happened once, it can happen again. A stark lesson, a potent warning, carried from breath to breath, generation to generation, ensuring the lessons of Toba would never be truly forgotten. The rise of community. In a world reshaped by fire and covered in ash, survival was far from a solitary endeavor. It became a deeply communal undertaking. It was a curve of piled stone, artfully shielding against the biting wind, a shared shelter, often a simple cave or overhang, that made the vast, terrifying darkness feel smaller, more manageable. A defiant act of collective construction against overwhelming odds. It was the elder who chose to stay behind, knowing their journey was at an end, whispering their ultimate sacrifice. Take the children and go. Not a sign of weakness, but the very birth of self-sacrificing legacy for the group. It was the path of physical and emotional scars each survivor bore. A silent, shared language of profound lessons paid in pain and collective trauma. Bonds forged in the crucible of shared suffering. This wasn't mere biological instinct or individual cunning. This was a deeper, more profound awakening of collective identity. This was the dawners, the first unwritten laws of community and reciprocal altruism, not carved in stone or etched in clay, but forged in unimaginable hardship and indelibly written in the enduring human heart. The music of life. A child, perhaps restless in the endless twilight, hummed a strange, simple melody. It wasn't a cry of fear, or a lament of hunger, or an urgent warning. It was pure hope, bare, fragile, and utterly wordless, a spontaneous expression of inner resilience. And then another voice, hesitant at first, joined in. A harmony, tentative but true. For the first time since the devastating fire, there was collective, intentional harmony. A primal symphony of continued existence. On rough cave walls, hands left their enduring marked small, childlike prints alongside large, adult ones. Layered over time like a silent chorus, a testament to generations. Not a mere census of who was there. A powerful declaration, echoing across millennia. I was here, we were here, we endured. A symphony of presence, whispering survival through the very stone itself. Age and legacy. In a desperate world where most lives were brutally short, the old became astonishingly rare and therefore sacred. Their mere existence was a miracle. Those who lived long enough to remember the world before or to carry the stories of the deepest winter became revered, walking relics of a lost time. They carried the precious past not in heavy books or scrolls, which did not exist, but in their trembling voices, laden with experience, in the deep lines of their faces, in their profound scars, in gestures steeped in the collective memory of the group. Each wrinkle on their skin, a chapter of history. Each gnarled hand, a living testament to endurance. And when they finally died, it was not just a life extinguished. It was as if an entire, irreplaceable library burned to ash. A devastating loss not just of an individual, but of accumulated wisdom and narrative. The flame against the void. To successfully light and sustain a fire back then was an act of profound defiance against the crushing darkness and cold. A symbolic and literal triumph. It loudly proclaimed, I am still here, breathing against the odds. The encroaching darkness has not won its final victory. Each flickering flame was a bold declaration of continued existence. A fragile yet resolute spark hurled at the face of extinction. Each warm glow, a monument to unwavering endurance. It wasn't just about providing essential heat. It was about nurturing hope. Not merely about biological survival, but a fierce, unyielding refusal to vanish without a desperate fight. A beacon of life in a world of desolation. When the stars returned, then one long-awaited day. The skies above finally cleared. The thick, omnipresent ash veil dissipated. No more choking gloom, no more perpetual twilight. Just the dazzling, unfiltered light of distant stars. They blinked awake over a shattered, healing world, brighter, more numerous than anyone remembered. The survivors, cautious and weary, looked up. not only in simple wonder at the cosmic display, but with a profound, almost reverent memory of their long darkness. The sky had once betrayed them with ash and cold. Now, it would become their ultimate guide, their celestial clock. Constellations weren't just random arrangements of light. They were stories etched in cosmic fire calendars to track seasons and resources, warnings of changing times, and silent, enduring promises of a predictable universe. The slow healing trees, resilient and slow, returned, sprouting from the ash-enriched soil. So did animals, cautiously reclaiming their devastated habitats. And laughter, small, fragile, almost forgotten, came back too. But not all at once. Not in a sudden burst of life. Recovery was an agonizingly uneven process. Slow, often incomplete, testament to the scale of the damage. Each green sprout was a quiet miracle, a sign of life's tenacity. Each newborn animal, each gurgle of a human infant, a defiant declaration against silence and loss. It wasn't a complete environmental reset. It was a gradual, painstaking resurrection, a delayed promise, kept at long last by the resilient Earth. And with it, the planet itself whispered a hopeful, patient message: try again. Life finds a way. The price of survival. We survived the cataclysm, but we did not escape unscathed. Survival, it turned out, came at a profound cost. Languages were lost forever. Whole vocabularies, words that once meant love, fear, fire, community gone, unrecorded. Peoples vanished, entire tribes, unique cultures erased from the tapestry of time, leaving no direct descendants. Ancient gods and spiritual beliefs were forgotten. Deities who had once comforted and guided were left behind in the pervasive ash and despair. Invaluable ideas, cultural practices, and technological innovations that might have saved us later died with their creators in the long dark. Survival isn't free. It demands a heavy tribute. It costs memory, requiring a selective forgetting of some horrors. It costs culture, as traditions wither without continuation. It costs blood, a constant toll paid for existence. The volcano that birthed civilization. It sounds paradoxical, almost impossible. That profound destruction could, in fact, sow the very seeds of advanced civilization. But perhaps that's exactly what happened. A cruel yet ultimately formative irony of history. Survivors of Toba weren't just lucky individuals. They were profoundly transformed by the ordeal, forged in the crucible of environmental collapse. They learned to teach each other with renewed urgency. They learned to care for each other with deeper empathy. They learned to remember collective lessons with fierce determination. From these newly refined instincts, systematic farming began to emerge, ensuring food security. Permanent settlements and then cities slowly took shape, creating new social structures. Complex laws were spoken and enforced, regulating growing communities. Scientific inquiry, driven by necessity, began to awaken. Perhaps the very first spark of organized human society was lit not in comfort or abundance, but in the deepest, most desperate darkness imaginable. A phoenix rising from the ash, echoes in our blood. Archaeologists continue to dig through layers of time. They find ancient caves revealing habitation patterns, charred bones, whispers of meals and sacrifices, crude yet ingenious spears, testament to ancient hunts, ash-stained walls, silent witnesses to countless generations. From these absences, these fragments, they meticulously rebuild fragments of lost lives. But the most important evidence of Toba's legacy isn't buried in the earth. It's alive. It's in us. Every unconscious reflex, a deep-seated survival mechanism. Every shared ritual, born from collective coping. Every lullaby whispered, every map drawn, every fire-lit gaze of understanding. All carry the indelible echo of that apocalyptic flame. Of that crushing winter, of that improbable defining choice to survive against all odds. A biological and cultural inheritance. The final whisper supervolcanoes still exist today. Yellowstone in the heart of North America. Taupo, hidden beneath the tranquil waters of New Zealand. Ira, in the volcanic arc of Japan. They sleep silently, powerfully beneath our modern feet. A constant geological reminder of Earth's volatile nature. And when not, if they awaken as the cycle dictates, we remember the lessons etched in our ancient past. Will the echoes in our blood guide us? Tomorrow is never promised, in geological time or human life. But we are the resilient children of those who chose to live, those who defiantly rebuilt in the face of annihilation. Fire did not make us human in its destructive force. It was enduring it, learning from it, adapting to it, that fundamentally transformed and defined us. So when the sky darkens again, when the air grows heavy, listen closely. The ancient, powerful story of survival is already inside you, encoded in your very being. Subscribe to Epic Echoes, and always remember what still burns with immense power beneath your feet.
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear
that you will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
I will faithfully execute